For 6 years I told myself my marriage was just tired. Not broken, not fading, just tired, you know how it is? Stress from work, bills stacking up, the daily routine that grinds you down. That's the story I repeated every time Marin's smile seemed a little tight or her touch felt hesitant. But cracks in a relationship don't just disappear because you ignore them. They wait, they widen, and sometimes they split your whole world open in the most unexpected moment, like at a work party that was supposed to remind you everything is fine. I invited her to come because I was desperate for normal again. I wanted to stand beside my wife, hold her hand, and feel like we hadn't drifted into two separate worlds. The hotel ballroom was impressive soft lighting, a glossy floor, champagne flutes floating around on trays. My coworkers were all in their sleek suits and sparkly dresses. But the moment Marin walked in wearing that pale silver gown, conversations just paused. She had this way of pulling the entire room toward her without even trying. For the first hour, it was almost perfect. She stayed close to me, laughing politely, greeting people. She was being the version of her that I recognized, the version I'd fallen in love with. Then, Rowan, my boss, appeared. He's a tall, deliberate guy, with an expression that's always halfway between approval and judgment. "Eli," he said warmly. "Good to see you here." Then he turned to Marin, and something in his gaze just sharpened. "So this is your wife," Marin smiled and offered her hand. "Nice to finally meet you." "Eli talks about the firm all the time," Rowan chuckled. "I hope he leaves out the boring parts," she laughed. It was light and polite, but it felt just a tiny bit too bright. I tried not to overthink it. It's just a party, right? As the night softened into dim lights and slow music, I spotted Marin over by the dessert table with Cassie from HR. Their conversation looked casual enough, but Cassie kept shooting these tiny, guilty-looking glances my way. I tried to shake it off. Paranoia, that's what it was. Around 10:30, I wrapped my arm around Maureen's waist for a slow dance. She leaned against me, but not completely. It was like she didn't want to wrinkle her dress, or maybe she just didn't want to touch me too much. "Long week," she murmured into my shoulder. "Just tired." Halfway through the song, she slipped away for some fresh air. When she came back a few minutes later, her eyes were different, glossy, like she just had a very intense conversation with herself outside. By midnight, most people were gathering their coats. I went to grab ours while she chatted with Cassie again. When I returned, Cassie avoided my eyes completely and just rushed away. That's when my gut started to twist. Something was wrong. I opened my mouth to ask Marin what that was all about. And the room went silent. Rowan stepped out of the hallway. He wasn't smiling anymore. His expression had hardened into something sharp and uncomfortable. In his hand was a phone, not his, not mine. Marin's. He approached us slowly, like he was carrying something fragile and dangerous. "Eli," he said quietly, "I found this outside on the balcony." My stomach tightened into a knot. Her phone was unlocked. The screen was glowing. Rowan handed it to me with this grim expression, like he already knew the damage waiting inside. I looked down. It was a message thread from an unsaved number. And at the top, glowing in the dim light, was the most hollowing sentence I'd ever read in my life. "He won't suspect anything tonight. I promise." My pulse just stopped, my vision tunneled. Everything else in the ballroom disappeared. I lifted my eyes to Marin. Her face was completely drained of color. She was totally still, caught with absolutely no defense. Before either of us could even form a word, the phone in my hand buzzed again. A new message from the same number lit up the screen. "Did you get away from him yet?" The room didn't exist anymore. It was just me, her, and this glowing rectangle in my hand that had just changed everything. My voice came out quiet, almost too calm. "Marin." She swallowed hard, her throat clicking. "It's not what you think." The classic line. The one every guilty person rehearses in their head. I handed her the phone without letting our fingers touch. "Who is it?" I asked. Her eyes flicked over to Rowan as if she was hoping he could offer some kind of escape. Then they came back to me. "Eli, not here." "Please." "This," I said softly, "is exactly where it happened." Her breath hitched. "The balcony." 10:30, I continued, the pieces clicking into place. You don't take your phone to a balcony at a work event unless you need privacy. She started blinking rapidly, pure panic in her eyes. Eli, let's just talk outside. No, I said, my voice firm. Just answer the question. She didn't, and her silence told me everything I needed to know. Rowan exhaled awkwardly and took a step back. I'm sorry, he murmured. I didn't mean to intrude, but he had. And in a strange way, I was grateful. Without looking at Marin again, I said, We're leaving. She followed me out of the ballroom, her heels clicking frantically on the marble floor, her breath trembling. Outside, the cold winter air wrapped around us like judgment. And that's when she finally broke. His name is Lucas? Her voice cracked. We've been talking for a while. Just talking, Eli, I swear. People don't send messages like that for just talking, I replied quietly. She burst into tears. I felt invisible. You stopped looking at me. You stopped noticing anything. I just wanted to feel wanted again. There it was. The justification, the pivot, turning her pain into my fault. I work 60 hours a week, I said, my voice flat, so we don't fall apart. I thought you understood that, she cried harder. You didn't notice me anymore. So you found someone who did, I said. I wasn't yelling. I was just stating the truth. She couldn't deny it. When our Uber arrived, she begged me to get in. Please, Eli, please come home. We'll talk. Not tonight, I whispered, her face just shattered. I turned and walked away into the cold, my chest feeling like it had been split in two. I ended up in a tiny all-night cafe, drinking stale coffee and replaying everything. Her forced smiles. The trip to the balcony, those messages. He won't suspect anything tonight. I promise. That one sentence carved itself into my mind. At 2 a.m, I finally sent her a text. We'll talk in the morning. Give me space tonight, she replied instantly. I'm so sorry. Please don't give up on us. But as I sat there in that lonely cafe, I knew something in me had already shifted. Something had broken. And I had no idea if it could ever be put back together again.